Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our premiere review and reaction for Showtime's The Curse. How's everybody feeling? Is everybody feeling good and cursed? Has somebody come up to you and delivered really bad news? Granted, I'm pretty sure nobody out there, fingers crossed, has handed somebody $100 and then taken it away.
I feel like I would curse somebody if they did that to me. Like, stop. Just stop.
That little girl had a right. Like that she's the real winner of this show. It's way good for you to call Asher out on his okay, this is a brand new show. It is just premiering this weekend. You can stream it now on Showtime. It's through like the Paramount Plus with Showtime plan or whatever else. And ultimately, this feels like it's going to be one of the most talked about shows of the fall. We'll see if that ends up holding true.
Yeah, I mean, early reviews of the show seem very favorable. There's lots of people that are like, the show is, really excellent, really good. We've only seen the first episode. That's what's available. But of course, other critics have probably watched a couple more episodes. But based just on this episode, I have questions. There are some things that I really liked about this first episode, but there are some things I was just like, is this the Nathan Fielder show? Like, why is Emma Stone like so in the background? Everybody's kind of in the background compared to him. And then as the credits rolled, it was like created by Nathan, written by Nathan, directed by Nathan. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what's going on here. Like, this show felt very focused on his character more than anybody. And I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing. But I think I went into this show thinking there was going to be more balance of getting to know Asher and getting to know Whitney, where I really only got to know Asher.
I wonder if this is just going to be a really slow build and we're going to sort of like unpeel, the onion more and more over time. Like, that could be interesting. The big questions that I have coming out of this premiere, they're mostly like these big picture, really weird questions of what sort of show is this? Is it going to have some sort of bizarre supernatural twist down the road? Like, what's the real nature of this curse? Is it anything? Like, I'm really kind of in this weird sort of headspace with it right now because I like what I'm seeing on screen. I just wish they would also be giving us a little bit more, but we'll get more into it.
Yeah, I mean, for now, the biggest question is, do you believe in curses? If you do, leave it in the comments. Don't curse us because
Yes.
I believe in curses. Do you believe in curses?
Not really. Okay.
The reason that I say that I believe in curses is because things can get into your head. And that's where I think this show is really going, where it's like, are curses real or do you make them real?
That is it's an interesting concept, and if that is where they're going, if they amplify it enough, it could be really exciting. But if you guys do want more curse content, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We are going to be here throughout all of this season, breaking things down, sharing some theories, having a really, really good time with all of you. We're going to be drinking our imaginary coffee that's not made from some Australian out-of-towners. We're going to have a lot of fun. And by hitting that subscribe button, you help to support us to continue to make these videos that we love to do so much.
Yeah, and if you want even more curse content, we have live streams every single week over at our Patreon. We'll link that for you below, and you can join us for more talk on the curse. Okay, so this is really what the show is about. You have Whitney, you have Asher. Asher ends up sort of making this decision where they're filming their show for like this HGTV type show where it's like all about homes and these different things that they're doing, and they're trying to like revitalize this area of town. And you've got this cameraman who seems to have known Asher for a little while, who gets him to go and be like, oh, give this little girl some money. Gives her $100 after it's filmed. He tries to take the money back to be like, listen, I'm going to give you a little bit less because, why? We don't know. I guess he's being cheap, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all the money I have on me right now. They're doing all right. He doesn't need to do that, but he decides to. And she curses him. And so this is where we get into that question, are curses real? And in this show, Asher doesn't believe in curses. He's just like, whatever. Oh, I curse you, like it's a nothing. where Whitney is like, no, 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 I'm not okay with this. Like, can you just make it better? Find the girl, give her the money, and see if she'll like take it back, kind of thing, like make things right. And so Asher goes out to do this, doesn't find the girl, instead gives money to somebody else, just a random person, it's just like, here, you take this money, and goes back and lies to Whitney about it.
There's just from the basic premise itself, there's some interesting stuff to unpack here, starting with I'm very surprised that HGTV is actually okay with having HGTV on his show, because Asher's a pretty terrible person from everything that we can gather in here. He's incredibly manipulative. He lies all the time. He takes money away from this young girl that she already got hope that she was getting, and he, made her day. Then he like goes and spends forever to try to break change, and then she ends up vanishing, so she doesn't get any money at all. Then, yeah, blatantly lies to Whitney at the end of this episode about everything that he's doing. And this is where we get into kind of the big character questions for me, is that if there is a curse here, it feels to me just like Asher is self-sabotaging, and Asher's just going to create the curse for himself as opposed to anything else, just because of the way he's acting, of the way he's continuing to lie. And how does he think that any of this is going to end up being okay? I did a tiny amount of research here, and I looked up Espanola, the town in which this show is based. It has 10,000 people, so it's not like a tiny community, but it's not big either. Like, that's a size in which people are going to find out, and people are going to, converse and spread information. Like, it's only going to take a few days for it to really get out there that Asher's just like this awful guy, and nobody in this community is going to want to work with him.
Okay, I'm putting on my hard hat. I think everybody on this show is kind of awful. Like, Asher lying, awful, whatever. Whitney, fake, not real. She seemingly is, pretending it feels fake, that she really cares about this community, but she just has this like savior complex where she's like, I'm going to be the one that's going to come in and save everybody. I'm going to change everything. And, while it's good to want to make change, the way she presents herself, she just doesn't feel like she's a good person when it really comes down to it. Their cameraman's a terrible person. This, in that way, feels a lot like The Wire or Succession, where it's like you have a group of characters that are all not good people, but can you get behind them anyways? Or can you enjoy the story anyways?
It's a really good question with these sort of shows, because it's all about what is going to get you to be drawn in long term. And like a show I think of as The White Lotus, because The White Lotus, everyone on both seasons of the show are pretty awful.
Yes.
But I love The White Lotus because I view that show as this is just a chance for me to make fun of really rich people doing really stupid things. And a part of that comes from, I'm not really rich. I don't have the money to go to these White Lotus properties.
You're not?
No, I know. We would be doing this video from the White Lotus if we were rich.
We're not rolling in that YouTube money?
No. I know it's real stunning news for everybody in this video, but it's just like, I want to feel better about myself by laughing at these really rich people. And I think with this show, some of my enjoyment right now is coming from this idea of, oh, you guys think you're so perfect, you HGTV snobs. You're going out there and you're like trying to change the community. But it is sort of this idea of, okay, not everything that glitters is gold, and these people aren't good. I'm excited to see how this is going to fall apart for them, as like just, I don't know, weird and dark as that may seem. I'm also just curious about Whitney, in the sense of, yeah, you said that she's fake, and I agree with that. Like, she's very, very fake. Everything is just sort of a performance.
Mhm.
I want to know what's going to bring out the real version of her. I want to know, and I want to know what that looks like. And that is a big point of curiosity for me.
Yeah, because one of the main people in this premiere that I was the most interested in that was pulling things out was this reporter who was doing this piece on them and what they were doing in the neighborhoods and how they were trying to bring in business or whatever, and called out her parents
Mhm.
and was just like, your parents have sort of this bunch of real estate where they're terrible landlords. They're doing things, they're just awful people. Like I said, everybody on the show is awful. And she's kind of like, what's the connection with you? And at first I was kind of like, that's a really crappy question to ask, because just because you have bad parents
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean that you're bad. Even if you're kind of in that same industry where it's like, okay, they're doing real estate and they're doing it really bad and they're being terrible people. Okay. But then you can go forward and be like, okay, I don't associate with that. I'm trying to do something different in the same space. I don't have to be attached to that just because they're my parents. Like, but she just wasn't willing to really address that. It was just like, nope, that needs to be scrubbed. We have nothing on the internet that connects me to my parents. Like, it just all needs to be washed away.
Yeah, she's very carefully curated. And I think the idea that they might be toying at here is just, in the end, maybe, the sinister, scheming reality TV personality that, on the surface is better than the happy-go-lucky, I'm gonna help everybody reality TV person. Like, is it possible that Asher has such a journey in this show that, I don't want to say he comes out of it as the good guy, but that he comes out of it at least maybe as not as bad as some other people? This is the thing that I'm the most interested in, and it is the final seconds of this episode where Asher has already done his whole lie, done all of his nonsense, said he gave the money back to the girl, he never saw the girl again. Was the girl even real? Like, I know that sounds weird, but that's something I'm kind of like toying with right now. But there's this look on his face when Whitney goes back and is just recording her narration for the show. He looks either shell-shocked, or he looks like maybe he feels guilty, but there's just a really strange look on his face, and they lingered on that for a long time.
Yeah, to me, it sort of felt like he got away with it. It's all going to be fine. They're all just going to be able to move forward with it. He's an interesting character in that he reminds me a lot of Kendall Roy over on Succession, where he's not a good person. He'll lie and scheme to do whatever he needs to, but his mood changes are just like a roller coaster, and so were
Yeah.
Kendall's. I mean, Kendall, to me, this is only one episode, but Kendall to me was obviously a much more well-formed character than what's going on here, but it is only one episode. Like, there's still time to grow it out, and I really do hope that they do with the Whitney character. Like, yeah, what is it about her that's gonna pull it out? Is it going to be the cameraman who is seemingly like in love with her, who's a friend of, Asher's, or is it going to be maybe her parents? I mean, we met her parents. They're really odd. They were
Yeah.
all talking about small peepees. Like, it was just kind of like, okay, I expected there to be a bigger reveal with the parents. How she reacted to that reporter, and what they were saying, about her parents, I thought her relationship with her parents was going to be way more strained, that it was going to be way more hidden, that maybe she wasn't really that close with them, and that it was going to be more about her and her relationship with her parents. But no, it was all about Asher still, which was kind of my issue with this episode, that everything about Asher was about Asher. Everything about Whitney was about Asher. Everything about the cameraman was about his friendship with Asher. This was really the Asher show.
Let's take a minute and talk about this cameraman Dougie for a moment, because Dougie is an interesting person, to say the least. He's clearly a satire on
Yeah, he
all of
is.
these like reality TV producers, and they give us this
You didn't like Love in the Third Degree?
I was sitting here
Oh
trying
my
to
goodness,
remember.
it was so, oh my
This,
God.
okay,
That
this
was
is
so uncomfortable.
that is Nathan. This is Nathan Fielder's brand of humor. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm the biggest Nathan Fielder fan. That's not a slam on him. It's just I haven't watched a lot of his stuff, but I know that he really likes this like cringy. I'm gonna make people really, really uncomfortable for as
Mhm.
long as I can and see how long they're gonna take it. And that whole show trailer, it was so uncomfortable. It was funny in a really dark sort of way. I will say it didn't actually feel that far off from Joe Millionaire to me, other than just that, yeah, this guy's got like a mask, he's got burns on his face,
Mhm.
but it's the same basic idea of, you don't really know me, but you're going to get to know me, and then the surprise is going to come out a little bit later. But this is the sort of person that they have gotten involved with. Somebody who has no problem, like even at the start of this episode, doing with the fake tears and sort of setting all
Oh.
of that up. It's so awful, it's so terrible, and yet this sort of stuff, it does happen. I wish it didn't, but it does.
Yeah, and I wish that everything that had come out with him and sort of this confession of like, "Oh, Whitney, you're like this light that comes into the room," and what like I kind of wish that had come a little bit later. There just didn't feel like there was like it came out of nowhere. Like and it really felt like it came out of nowhere. And I know that they've all been working together a little while now, but for me
Yeah.
as a viewer, I've just met up with these guys and I didn't see anything like that going on. It was just Dougie's just complaining about her all the time. And then the minute that they're alone, all of a sudden it's like, you're this queen in, this field of flowers and you make everything better. I was just like, what is that? What's happening?
It yeah, it clearly feels like Dougie's down for a little something something here, and it's just what does Whitney even see in Asher for starters? Because it doesn't seem like they
Yes.
have like that romantic a relationship. We
No.
saw their quote unquote love scene, whatever
With
that.
Steve.
Yes, Steve really. Steve. No, I'm not going to talk about Steve. I'm just going to keep it moving.
This is the thing about this show is
Yeah.
that it feels like it wants to make you uncomfortable.
Yes.
It wants to be very edgy and have these moments that people are going to talk about.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's almost there. Like
Yeah.
almost there, but it's not there yet. And I'm hoping that as it continues on, I mean, obviously there's more to come. It's only the first
Yeah.
episode, and sometimes first episodes need a minute to find their footing. Not everything can be the pilot of Lost, where
Yeah.
it's just like it starts and you're just like, oh my God, this is the greatest show on earth. Lots of shows need a couple episodes to really find their footing on stuff. And I think it can get there, but it just fell short a little bit on that for me. It's not edgy enough. It's not weird enough. Like it needs to just take that risk. Just go all the way with it.
Yeah, I think it needs to go harder, and I think it will go a little bit harder. I just think the question is it going to ultimately bring enough? Like, I enjoyed the first episode. I mean, at the same time, if I'm, comparing it to White Lotus, I would say I like the first episode of White Lotus more than I did the first episode of this. Here are the two craziest ideas that I have coming out of this.
Mhm.
Number one, I kind of hinted at earlier that the curse girl is not actually real and that she is some sort of like spirit that's meant to represent, everything that is wrong and amoral about him. And while I know there were other interactions around this girl, it
Mm.
might be sort of blown out in a sense of perception or a sense of representation. Idea number two, and this one's really crazy, and I hope they don't do this, that Dougie is actually like representing something from the underworld, where it's sort of like in working with him, you have made this sort of deal where you will find fame, but you will also find great suffering. It is sort of it's a little too much like American Horror Story delicate at the end of the day with that.
Yeah, but I mean, that kind of is how it is in the business, right? I
Yeah.
mean, people make sacrifices all the time for fame or money or to make a difference or whatever it is.
I will say, as weird as this episode was, there were a couple of moments I did laugh. I did love the we're going to make Espanol all about the local community. And then you go into the coffee shop and they're like, good eye. Well, what would you? There's a heavy Australian population in Espanol now all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And there's a couple little moments here. I hope they amp up the comedy a little bit moving forward. But this is going to be a really curious show to discuss. And I think, it's going to be really fun hearing what you guys have to say about it. Your theories, as Jess sort of said earlier, do you believe in curses? Is what's happening here the result of a curse? Is it supernatural? Or is this just, Asher just destroying the world?
Yeah, or just you make your own luck, right? So if you think you have bad luck, then everything looks like bad luck.
Yeah. All right. Well, hit that subscribe button so you guys don't miss any more of our coverage. Thank you to our patrons for your support.
Thank you.
We'll see you here next time.